Hey everyone, Brian Williamson here, talking about things going on in life and hopefully enriching yours. I'm here with the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Rob Gill of Epic Wealth Management. Rob, how you doing, buddy?
Wow, what's up, Brian? How you doing, my friend? Happy Fun Friday, and thank you for this opportunity to spend time with you.
The privilege is mine. It's a great chance for me to get to talk with you and have you talk to people in my circle of friends, family, and clients and everybody else I can get this out to, because one of the things I've learned about you is that you have an incredible story, you have an incredible message, you do incredible stuff, and I want to get that out to the world so that people can hear from you. So let's start with this question. Who is Rob Gill? Where do you come from? Who are you? Tell me who you are.
So Rob Gill was born and raised in Bayonne, New Jersey. Bayonne is a very small town in northern New Jersey, Hudson County. You know, blue-collar town, 75,000 people, urban area. Everybody kind of knew everybody's business. And, you know, I grew up in a two-family home. My dad worked 3 jobs to bring me through my Jesuit high school that I happened to have the good fortune to go into in high school in Jersey City, which was St. Peter's Prep. And, you know, I'm a person with a full understanding of blue-collar mentality, yet bringing that information into the world of Wall Street financial planning and really understanding globally in a conservative manner. And there was a lot of pangs and toils that got us there. How to view money, how to create a positive relationship with money, and what that looks like not only today, but generationally, especially if you have an economic philosophy and or an investment philosophy before you even decide to where you deploy your dollars.
What led you to getting into that area? How did you get into financial management?
You know, thank you. That's a great question. So I was sharing this morning that, you know, growing up, my dad always wanted to be rich. Like when I was younger, and for any of the good folks out there that were brought up in the 70s and 80s, Lotto was first born, right? So the pick 6. And my dad was a police officer, and he worked a couple other jobs after that. And, you know, kind of like growing up, you ever have a junk drawer where your socks don't match or your shirts don't match? My dad had a top drawer full of lottery tickets, right? And we never won. And I always remember my dad, because I have 33 first cousins, would say that if he wins, he's going to make sure every cousin gets a piece of the pie. So as I really struggled financially and emotionally with money through high school, through college, I then realized that it was important for me to understand it if I was to move forward. And I did the best I could at understanding it. Early on, when I first broke into the game of doing business over the phone, I was really a product of my environment, which was really a hard charging call center mentality kind of place in the late 90s. And it was in that space where I would do 300, 400, 500 dials a day that I really learned the craft of how to create sales. I was not educated in the space of financial planning at that point. I was just really just a one-trick pony that was just focusing on understanding how to buy stocks over the phone. But as I began to study and really understand planning at a high level, there was a thing called lost opportunity cost, which really means that if I pay a tax, let's say I pay 10 grand in taxes to the government, and I lose the opportunity to earn a rate of return on that $10,000 because it's in the government's hand, it's not in my hand. Or if I pay interest on a loan, same thing. So I started to think about my dad and all the lottery tickets, and I began to just backtrack, you know, the amount of money he spent every day for, 10 years, 350 days a year. I put a 5% multiplier on that, or a rate of return of 5%, which basically meant that number would double every 15 years approximately. And I realized that the lost opportunity, had he not invested during that age time in lottery tickets every day that he did, and I looked at the math behind it, it would have created like an extra $1 million in spendable income from 65 to 80. You really start breaking down the math. So that really led me into that kind of awareness. So when you know that stuff, it's hard not to unknow it. I'm sure you understand this as an attorney, right?
Yeah.
So It really is what began to drive me, and everything I'm involved in, even to this moment, is not a it's not a graduation, it's not a revolution, it's an evolution, and I'm constantly progressing. There's not perfection, and we're constantly learning new things, and developing new strategies, especially what's happening right now. um, my hat took me right into the mode of gathering facts and information. And I'm not going to say I became an expert on the flu, but I've never been more educated on the flu than I have been in the last 7 days, because all of a sudden we're in a pandemic. And the last time we saw a pandemic was 1918, and it killed 55 million around the world. Always check the facts. I think it killed like 600,000 Americans. And there was a tale of two cities. I talked about this on a video yesterday, that St. Louis, once the first kid, and I'm exaggerating, but once the first kid in the school system caught the flu, they shut everything down, and they practiced social distancing back in 1918. And then at the same time, Philadelphia had a 200,000 person parade, because they were selling bonds for the World War One. Like, that city got decimated, right? So my brain says, okay, now we're in 21st century technology. You could see it every day on the news conferences. And knowing that there was 575,000 Americans killed, the next flu, which was the Hong Kong flu in the 50s, I think it killed like 70,000 people. And then there was the China flu, or it was a Hong Kong or Chinese flu in the 60s, and that killed 50,000. Then the swine flu killed 30,000, and that was in 2009. So I then look at the numbers and I say, okay, where are we at now? Coronavirus, I think we're up to worldwide, no, in America, I'm sorry, about 1,200 people, right?
Mhm.
And I'm just kind of because that's how I could really start to look at things and then figure out, let me go back to 1929, when the Great Depression happened after that market crash. And what was going on prior to the crash, unemployment was on the rise, and there was a lot of debt out there that was beginning to fall off the table. So it was no surprise when that crash happened. It did happen because of economic factors that did not exist here in January. So this is how I think when it comes to planning and money.
That's amazing, because that you just took in over a whole century's worth of data and information, just compressed it in an incredibly accessible way. And from the previous things I've seen you do, this is kind of how you approach things when you're talking with your clients and the people you work with. As you explain the money to them, you bring it in and make it really accessible.
Yeah.
Am I more right on that?
You are, because remember, right now, people are used to, for the last 5, 6, 7 years, looking at their 401k statements, and it was going higher. And now they're looking at it and it's going lower. And by the way, they're not in work and they just got unemployed. Now they're on unemployment, and they don't know if they're going to go back to work in 2 or 4 weeks. And that's a frightening feeling if you don't have a true economic philosophy, So education is the key. Not overreacting is the other key. And I just want to clarify for your audience that I am the owner of Epic Insurance Services. So when we look at Epic as a whole, we have 5 fiduciaries on the Epic Wealth Management side, which I am not on the wealth management side. My wife owns that division. I own the insurance division. And for anybody out there that does have any questions, I will put you in touch with one of my fiduciaries in that space for that financial education, which is basically what I'm sharing right now. Suitable for a transaction. On the insurance side, which is we focus on not only individual insurance, but also business planning insurance, health insurance, life insurance, P&C, and disability insurance. So in that space, when you have the wealth management world and you have the insurance world, the best thing for the client is to make sure all of their professionals are on the same page, whether it's their accountant, their attorney, their planner, and their insurance agent. If all 4 are on the same page like they are for the wealthy, then what'll happen is the client's decision making will be based on logic, math, and science, not emotional timidity or gut level hunch, because the four professionals will be, their job is to all agree on something, right? And then the question is, okay, Rob, they agree. What do you do next? Well, we measure it on our Epic Wealth Builder, which is our e-money platform. And it's connected to the clients, every one of their financial institutions. So it gives a real update daily on where the client is at with their mortgages, with their different brokerage accounts, their savings accounts, their credit cards. It creates budgets. You could stress test financial decisions. Hey, if I buy this rental piece of property, how's that going to impact my 401k? And it gives a level of financial organization that is systematized and process oriented that allows for clear thinking, no matter if we're in turmoil or if everything is smooth sailing.
That's amazing to be able to have that system to make it accessible to people is incredible. So, yeah. Rob, one of the things that I think a lot of people question is they say, well, I'm not already rich. I don't already have a lot of wealth. So what good is, a wealth management plan for me? What good is somebody who's going to help me manage my wealth? I can't afford them. I don't have any assets for them to work with. Can you speak to this? Because I suspect that this is actually a misunderstanding of wealth management and how to do wealth, and that this really is something that everybody needs access to and can benefit from.
Yeah, great question, Brian. Thank you. Can you hear me clearly? Can you hear
Yes.
me okay? Great. So the point that's an awesome question, because if you deal with the major wirehouses, they're not going to take accounts on unless, somebody has 200, 300, 500,000, which I don't think is fair. So when it comes to really being independent, Epic is independent. Our goal is to always educate first. And at the end of the day, if somebody is brand new or if somebody feels that they don't have enough, what it really comes down to is creating a game plan around what can you save on a monthly basis. And then once that number is identified and it's tied to a philosophy, and once again, this is for a newcomer and or someone that feels they don't have a lot yet, once they get into the action mode of taking that extra step every month and saving, and the rule of thumb is 15 to 20% of income, once they start doing that and they shift their thinking from I don't have enough to I'm very resourceful, what can I learn from this and how can I grow? What begins to happen is the universe kind of opens things up a little bit. The thinking is different, and then the trajectory change creates that financial freedom, because it has to start here first before it could be manifested in the real world. And that's so important to financial planning, more than anything else, is the thinking. And not being reactionary or fall into the trap of behavioral finance, which is when people typically sell at the bottom and buy at the top.
Excellent. That's just incredible information. I think it's going to help provide a lot of access to people who otherwise wouldn't take steps needed to provide for their financial future, especially in a time like this where they feel like everything's kind of crunching and being more challenging. Because this is such a time of uncertainty, what would you say to provide encouragement and a sense of vision for the future of what to expect for people who are looking at things right now and saying, should I be panicking? Is there something I don't know? What's happening I don't understand?
Great question. I think that if somebody finds themselves panicking, the question they should ask is, at least in my opinion, well, what are you panicking about per se? Are you panicking that the world is going to end? Are you panicking that you may catch the virus and pass away? And if that's the case, let's talk about that for a second. It's always important to be informed. Once again, the 1,200 deaths that have happened, what is the age demographic of those deaths? I don't know. Let's say 1,000 of them were over 80 years old, right? So now, rest in peace for whoever did pass away. But factor that into the equation if you're 40, 35, or 50 years old. Do you have a pre-existing condition? What is it? Get research on it. Be prepared. And if there's the fear that you fall into those parameters, don't leave the house for now. Do a lot of social distancing, right? And I think that the percentage is so small of the person that is over 80 and in the pre-existing qualification that Obviously, if this was January, there'd be a different conversation. No one even knew about it. But now I think with all the awareness and everything that's going on, plus they're speeding up the remedies and they're speeding up potential medicine, that I think this is a different story by the end of April than it was by the middle of March. And I think that get educated in that space. And then realize that once that's said and done, go back to 2009, and the Fed took 9 months, and this was after the Great Recession, right? Or during the Great Recession, the Fed took 9 months to create a stimulus package because they weren't getting along. And what it tells you that this is done in maybe 2 weeks and 2 days, and they agreed on it with a unanimous decision, tells you that structurally, this is important right here, structurally, with this money coming into the system, the economy is good. And it's good for now, and this could give a 60 to a 90-day stimulus. At some point throughout the country, certain pockets of counties within each state, within the country, are going to go back to work sooner than others. And be encouraged to go back to work, and I think there will be a beautiful rebound as we get into the full swing of things. Maybe maybe New York New York City by May. Maybe late May is coming back into swing, right? But I think that it's important to know that the stimulus package, which took 9 months, 10 years ago, was done in 2 weeks. And there was no system challenges within our economic system. There was only a structural challenge that came from an outside influence, almost like a car accident that you got to get to the hospital. And if you get to the hospital, if the emergency room does all the right tests and you get the blood and everything you need to get into your system to be healed, that's exactly what's going on right now. And I think we are ahead of it, although there is epicenters, whether it's California, LA, New York City, Washington. Now I'm hearing about New Orleans, but this too shall pass, because it's not killing everybody. It's killing a demographic within a demographic within a demographic.
You're exactly right, Robin. Thank you so much for helping me provide this information and kind of spreading this hope that things are going to get better, that things are not as dire as they seem, because, as you said, this too will pass. We have a bright future, and I hope that in the coming days and weeks that we can bring you back on to talk about more of the stuff that's happening, especially with the new legislation that's going on, and continue to educate and inform people about what they can expect. For the people who are going to watch this, how can they reach out to you so that they can make use of your services, get direct advice that's specifically tailored to them? How do they get in touch with Rob Gill and Epic Wealth Management?
They could go to info@epic, which is EPICWM.com, info@epicwm.com. Obviously, Brian, you have my direct access. And I think that that's probably the best way to get in touch with me. But what I'd also like to add, because I think this will go on Facebook, and I want my whole audience to know who you are and the beautiful stuff that you're doing with Michael Spiken, right, and Sean Callagy and Callagy Law regarding business interruption and some of the other different things that are going on out there that I believe, and I've been promoting Michael the whole time. But I have clients all around the country. I don't just have them in New Jersey. My relationship with Chris Crone has put me to have a lot of relationships out in your neck of the woods as well. So I think it's important that a lot of business owners understand the value and the information that you bring. And if I'm leaving something out, please add to that right now, because I don't want to leave any stone unturned.
We're definitely going to keep pushing information out. Thank you, Rob, for supporting what we're doing here. Yes, with Mike Smiken and the other team at Callagy Law, we definitely have a lot of information we're pushing out to try to keep people informed, keep people educated, and help provide some guidance through this time. I think, Rob, you're going to be an integral part of that process, because you are a wealth of knowledge and wisdom and a whole lot of fun too. And we're going to have fun as we get through this crisis. I think that's something that people are missing right now. We're going to have a lot of fun as we find ways to overcome these challenges and have an even more successful future than what we were having before the health crisis hit. So, Rob, thank you so much for joining me. I'm looking forward to the next time we get to chat and talk about what's going on next.
Thank you, Brian. I enjoyed it, and have a great day, brother. Stay safe and healthy.
Same to you, pal. Same to you.